Thank you, Rick. Boy, that was nice. I like that one. Yeah. All right. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. Can everybody see this over here? Okay. I want to make sure I'm moved out of the way. Don't want to get in the way of the light, or our images, for that matter. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Wow. Well, I was reflecting and meditating on what I was going to share and talk about this morning, and as I have said a number of times, what I do is I ask the question in prayer and meditation, what is it I need to learn, and what is it I need to share? And this week I kept hearing this phrase, moving from darkness to light. Darkness to light. And I think there's a lot of things around that. I think, Halloween always, to me, kind of brings up this kind of theme or this idea. One of the things about Halloween is that it really was a time for, it originally started off with All Saints Day, and then the night before All Saints Day, that they started having a lot of different celebrations about the dead coming back, and some people are afraid of that for some reason, and they don't like that. Primarily because it's probably unknown, because it's what we see as darkness. That's what really darkness is in many ways, isn't it? It's that which is unknown. It is not reflecting really what is true and real and honest, and what is the essence of being and light and life. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I wanted to I came across a story. It was a family that had gone to the movies, and on the way, the teenager of the family stopped by the refreshment counter and picked up some popcorn. And by the time he got into the theater, the lights were already out, and they were dim, and it was dark in there. So he scanned around the theater and was looking everywhere and couldn't seem to find his family. And so he paced up and down the aisles trying to find his family, and it kept getting darker, actually. And so as the lights began to go down even further, he just stopped and asked, "Does anybody know me?" I can just see a teenager doing that, right? But it's a great question, When we're in the dark, that's a great question to ask. Does anybody really know me? When we're in the dark, we're in that place of darkness in life and in ourselves. We oftentimes, the biggest thing that we're dealing with is the fact that not only we don't know whether anybody truly knows us, but at the same time, perhaps we're not really truly knowing ourselves. We're not really knowing the truth of who and what we are. And really, in many ways, that's what this idea of darkness is. As I looked at different scriptures, I realized that if you look all through, not only the Bible, but almost every scripture that you read, whether it be the Bhagavad Gita, whether it be the Quran, it doesn't matter. All of the scriptures have a theme. And that theme is really moving from darkness into light, isn't it? It's pretty simple. I mean, we could probably get rid of a lot of the words in there if we just say, oh yeah, let's move from darkness to light. It's not quite that easy, perhaps, but it's just a very simple awareness and simple message. And a big part of that is beginning to recognize that truth of who and what we are. There are a lot of things that happen and a lot of decisions that we make when we're in a place of darkness, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And I came across another story. There was a young soldier and his commanding officer they got on a train together, and the only available seats were across from this very attractive young lady who was traveling with her grandmother. As the four engaged in conversation, the soldier and the young lady kept eyeing each other. And it was obvious there was an attraction there, and there was a mutual attraction. But suddenly, the train went through a tunnel, and sending the train into complete darkness. And immediately there were two sounds that were heard. One was the smack of a kiss, and the other one was a slap. And as the four of them came out of the tunnel and came back into the light, the grandmother thought, I can't believe he kissed my granddaughter, but I'm glad she gave him a slap that he deserved. And then the commanding officer thought, I don't blame the boy for kissing the girl, but I wish he had better aim. And the young girl thought, I'm glad he kissed me, but I wish my grandmother hadn't slapped him for doing it. And the young soldier sat there with a smile on his face, and he thought, wow, I can't believe I got to lay one on this beautiful girl and slap my commanding officer at the same time. You know, we just don't know what's going on in the dark sometimes, do we? But we have all these amazing stories at times of what's going on when we're in the dark. And a lot of times our decisions that we make in life are made in the dark. And that's one of the biggest challenges I think we find ourselves faced with, is we oftentimes do things and say things and act in ways that are in the dark and coming from that place of darkness within ourselves. I'm using that term darkness. It seems to be like in some ways I have some challenges using that term because it seems to be like it's a more traditional kind of thought and idea. I oftentimes talk about there are two basic energies that we deal with. We have energies that are life enhancing, which I call anabolic energies, and we have energies that are life depleting, which are catabolic energies. My wife, Julie, says I need to find some new words, so I started talking about darkness and light. They're a little simpler to deal with. You know, anabolic and catabolic, we have a little trouble remembering those sometimes. So it's easier to just think about it in terms of darkness and light. And I was thinking about this idea, this understanding about darkness and light, and the misunderstandings that we have in our life and our world, dependent upon where we're coming from, whether we are really in a place of awareness, in a place of clarity, in a place of really alignment with our true nature, or whether we really are in a place of confusion, of fear, of doubt, of anxiety, all of the stress, you know the ones I'm talking about. Okay. So I came across some signs that I think, here's one that was in a podiatrist's office. In a podiatrist's office, it said, there's one sign that said, time wounds, all heals. And there was one in an optometrist's office that said, if you don't see what you're looking for, you've come to the right place. And then there was one on a plumber's truck. We repair what your husband fixed. And then there was another one on a plumber's truck. Don't sleep with a drip, call your plumber. At a tire shop in Milwaukee, invite us to your next blowout. Yeah. In a non-smoking area, if we see smoke, we will assume you are on fire and take appropriate action. In a maternity room door, push, push, push. This one's at a car dealership. The best way to get back on your feet is miss a car payment. Here's one in a muffler shop. No appointment necessary. We hear you coming. I love this one. In a veterinarian's waiting room. Be back in 5 minutes. Sit. Stay. Oh, boy. Got a couple more here. These are. Let's see. This one is yeah. At an electric company, I had to skip over a couple of them, sorry. An electric company, we would be delighted if you send in your payment. However, if you don't, you will be. Had to think about that one a minute. And here's the best of one for last. There's a sign on the back of a septic tank. Caution, this truck is full of political promises. I had to throw that one in there for this time of year because we are coming up on something very important. And I do want to say something about that today. I think it is very, very important for us to participate and to get out and vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm not going to tell you what to vote for. What I'd like to say is I want to encourage you to be conscious and aware of where you're voting from. I think it's so important for us to really pay attention and notice where we're voting from. And are we voting from a place of darkness, a place of fear, a place of anxiety, a place of illusion and untruth and distortions? Or are we voting from a place of love, of compassion, of caring, of peace, of confidence, of hope? It's a very simple thing if we really think about it. Where are we voting from? And I think if all of us in this world and in this country participate in this activity in a more conscious way, in a way where we are really paying attention to not so much what we're voting for or who we're voting for, but where we're voting from, we will absolutely transform not only this nation, but we will transform our world. We get lots of opportunities to vote, don't we? We're getting to have a wonderful opportunity on November 4th. It's an important opportunity, and I really strongly encourage each and every one of you to participate in that and do that in a way that is conscious, where you're really tuning into that question of where am I voting from? And what am I voting for? Greater possibilities? Am I voting for more equality? Am I voting for those things that really can make a powerful difference in the lives of more people in our country and our world? It's essential. It's important. So there's my little speech about voting. Please, please participate from a place within yourself where you are guided to listen and to step into that awareness of voting from your heart, from your spirit, from the light within you. I want to talk a little bit about light. All right, technology, it's working, yay. There's so many magnificent, wonderful symbols in our scripture, and not just the Bible, but in all scriptures, they talk about this understanding of light. And I think about light really more in terms of what it is in each of us. And light is both peace and love and hope and kindness and confidence and patience and self-worth and forgiving and gratitude and joy and happiness and well-being and having a purpose. Those are the kind of words and ideas and thoughts and energies that we think about when we think of light. It's also truth. The more we can really align ourselves with that which we know to be the highest truth, we are not only in light and experiencing light, but we are expressions of that light. And so, how many of you are always in the light? Well, I'm going to suggest to you that all of us are all the time. We are. We may not remember it. We may not know it. We may not be conscious of it. And that lack of consciousness of being in the light is what we could call darkness. It's not that we're not in the light. It's that we're not aware of being in the light. And therefore, we are making decisions and we are making choices and we are doing things and saying things that are not reflective of these qualities and these characteristics. Now, this is just a small list. There's more. I mean, there's a lot more to the light than this, right? Wouldn't you agree? Who can think of some others? Can you think of others that might reflect light? Nurturing. Yes. Giving. Creativity. What was another one over here? Abundance. Yes. Compassion. Say it again. Openness. Yeah. Sharing. Tolerance. See, we know these things. We know what they are, don't we? We have an awareness and understanding about them, and we have those always available to us. And part of our work as spiritual beings in this spiritual life and in this spiritual world is to remind ourselves of those and to move back into that energy and those feelings and those vibrations when we find ourselves going out of it. And it's not, notice that I didn't say, that we're never going to go out of it. We are. That's part of the life experience. And it's important for us to recognize that we're going to have times where we're not really conscious and aware of those energies and those qualities, that we're not, as Abraham Hicks would say, we're not vibrating from that energy. And so part of our work is to move back into that space. And it's a very, this stuff is actually pretty simple, isn't it? If you think about it, it's moving from darkness to light. Not always easy, but very simple. And so the more we can remind ourselves of how simple it really is, interestingly enough, it can become easier. It can become easier to not only move back into the light, but to remain in that light more consistently and to really remain in those energies and those vibrations and those feelings more consistently. And we all get opportunities and challenges to doing that. And that's part of what the life process really is. Part of what we're here to do is to remind ourselves about being in the light and to remind ourselves that all of the things that are going on are really there to help show us how we can not only be in the light, but be of the light. You, Lord, keep my lamp burning. My God turns my darkness into light. My God turns my darkness into light. I love this psalm. It really is a way of helping us to remind ourselves of one of the ways that we can allow ourselves to move back into that energy of light. Recognizing and accepting and knowing that in the presence of whatever is going on, whatever appears to be dark, there is something more and something greater there. Just simply reminding ourselves of that, simply reminding ourselves of that one presence and one power. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago about the prayer of protection. Just simply saying that prayer of protection oftentimes can be a catalyst for moving us out of our darkness thinking, our thinking in terms of fear and anxiety, and moving back into a way of seeing and thinking that allows us to experience more of the peace, the love, the joy that's already available to us. It's there. It's in us. And then the precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commandments of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. Giving light to the eyes. What do you think about that? That's, to me, giving light to the eyes really has to do with helping to correct our seeing, helping us to correct our vision, helping us to see more clearly, to envision more through the eyes of love, of care, of compassion, of all of those things that we talked about earlier. And then making choices in life that reflect that more. So we aren't always in that place of light, wouldn't you agree? We're not always in that place of awareness of light. I think that's a better way of saying it. That we're not always aware of those energies and those vibrations of love and peace. And so part of our work is to do those things that help remind us how to move back. Let's talk about darkness for a minute. To me, darkness really also has to do with untruth. Fear, anxiety, hate, hurt, self-doubt, anger, self-pity, feeling unloved, blaming, judgments, criticism, fault-finding, griping, stress, worry, overwhelm, depression, despair, feeling no purpose. These are just a few that I thought of when I thought about darkness. What are some others when you think about darkness? Yes? Doubt. Yeah, that's a good one. Anger. Yeah. Oh, I didn't have anger up there. Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. Apathy, you said? Fear, yes. Denial. Yeah. Oh, we won't talk about that one, though. Jealousy. I'm sorry? The unknown. Yeah. Addictions, yeah. All of these, I think, in some way are reflections of that very first one, the very first one, which is fear. There's some variation of that. There's some variation of that. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. And so, anybody had any of that? I'll share with you. I've had several of those this week, and was really immersed in a few of them. You know, and I found myself really not really coming from a place where I really would prefer to come from. I really was, in a place of anger and fear and resentment. And anybody know what ever had that kind of experience? Yeah. And the thing is, I don't know that we can really say that we're never going to have those kinds of experiences, even when we're growing spiritually, even when we're in unity and we're spiritual beings, or even when you're a unity minister, and that, it doesn't happen that you just automatically become a unity minister and you don't have those energies and those feelings. The truth of the matter is, there's a purpose for those energies. There's a purpose for them. And if nothing else, the purpose is to show us that we're not really aligned with the truth of our being. And so a real purpose for those is to recognize those as signals, the signals that we're not really connected with and honoring, and in aligning ourselves with our true divine nature. But when we are finding ourselves in those places, they can be gifts to us. We can find that when we find ourselves in those energies, they can be a gift to us in a way that allows us to move from those energies back into an experience and an energy of light, an energy of love, an energy of care, an energy of compassion, an energy of peace. But oftentimes we can't jump from the anger, the hurt, the self-doubt, the self-pity. It's kind of hard to jump from that to bliss. Have you noticed? It doesn't just happen that we say, oh, well, I don't like that one. I think I'm just going to jump over into bliss for now. We sometimes try to do that, and what we find is that we actually simply suppress a lot of these feelings and these energies, don't we? They're still there, but they're kind of under the surface, but we're in denial about them. We don't notice them, or we're pushing them down, we're pushing them aside. And one of the ways we talk about it is, I love this image of it being in a swimming pool, and you've got about 10 beach balls that you're trying to sit on and trying to hold underneath the water. Ever tried to hold a beach ball under the water? So they're all there, and you're trying to hold them down so that you're not feeling them. But the reality is they're going to pop up somewhere, aren't they? So part of the work of shifting from darkness to light really is not about not feeling or not experiencing the darkness. I got an example this week of an acorn, and I found an acorn. I was going to bring it, and I left it on my dresser. I found an acorn this week, and someone actually got this example. Someone gave this story about an acorn, and a couple days later I found an acorn. I thought, that'd be perfect, I'll use it. Then I left it on the dresser. So, but you know what an acorn is, and you've seen an acorn before. So an acorn falls off of the tree, and it gets buried in the ground. And it gets buried in darkness, and it's dark for a long time. But out of that darkness, that's where it grows. It grows through the darkness. The reality is, if an acorn stays on top of the ground, it doesn't grow. It gets eaten by squirrels, it gets crushed, but it doesn't really grow. So there's something to the darkness that helps us to grow. And that's part of the purpose of these dark experiences and these dark energies. So it's not that they're wrong, it's not that they're bad, it's just that they're there to show us and to help us move out of the darkness back into the light. Isn't that a great image, though, if you think about it? It's very reassuring to know that that is really the natural order of things, of moving from darkness back into the light. So, in Psalms, I read, even in darkness light dawns for the upright and for those who are gracious and compassionate and righteous. Notice the different energies here. Even in darkness, light dawns for the upright. Those upright, that word upright really means being in alignment with Spirit, being in alignment with our true nature. And then gracious, compassionate, and righteous. Aren't those great words? Wouldn't you say those are light words? That's kind of what we talked about earlier. Moving back into graciousness and compassion and righteousness. And then in Matthew, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body is full of light. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body. Now, we're not just talking about our physical eyes here, are we? We're talking about our way of seeing things, our perception, how we're choosing to look at the situation, the circumstance, the other, ourself, how we are choosing to see. How we are choosing to see determines whether we experience light or not, doesn't it? We have a choice. We have choices in whether we are choosing to look from a place of light, and we have a choice of whether we're going to look from a place of darkness. We have a choice of whether we're going to make decisions out of our anxieties, our fears, our doubts, our self-pity, or whether we're going to make decisions out of confidence, of love, of peace, of compassion, of caring. We have that power. We have that ability. We sometimes forget that we have that power. We think we're stuck. Sometimes we feel, that part of the darkness, of course, is feeling stuck, right? Sometimes we feel stuck in the darkness. We feel stuck because we think it's up to the other person to be different, to change. Anybody ever voted for somebody else to change? Go ahead, raise your hand. It's all right. It's, you know, as Gary Simmons says, just spit it up. It's just a hairball. You can just, just spit it up. We all vote for other people to change, don't we? And yet, all of these experiences are there for a very good purpose and a very good reason. And they're to help us to move back into our true nature and the essence of who and what we are. So here's some steps that I found valuable for myself to move back into the light. First of all, you don't move out of the darkness by denying the darkness, right? You don't move out of those energies by denying those energies. The most valuable thing we can do to move out of those places of darkness is to acknowledge what we're actually experiencing and feeling in the moment. What am I feeling right now? Noticing it, paying attention to it. The more we can pay attention and be conscious and aware of our feelings, we can actually do something with that. And the reality is, the moment that we actually become conscious and aware of what we're actually feeling, we're doing one thing, and that is moving back into the present moment. And the very act of moving back into the present moment can actually help us move back into the energies of light. Does that make sense? Yeah. So for me, what do I need to, here's a great question I came across that I find really valuable. What do I need to do to connect to light and truth and feel good now? What do I need to do to connect back to light and truth, to those energies of love and peace? And in the moment when I'm experiencing darkness, I'm angry with someone, I'm frustrated, I'm sad, I'm depressed, what do I need to do right now in this moment that will connect me back to that energy of light, of compassion, of care? It may be compassion with yourself. Maybe you need to give yourself a break. I need to do that often, I find, because I can be hard on myself. What's the next best feeling thought that I have access to? This is one I love from the Abraham Hicks work. What's the very next best feeling or thought that I have access to in this moment? What would help me to move into that energy? Usually for me, it's an energy of simply acknowledging or accepting something. Or it's finding some energy of and I down here, I think I even listed this. I think of one thing I can accept or appreciate about the other, myself, or the situation. What is one thing I can really accept about them or appreciate about them or about myself or about the situation? The very energy of acceptance and appreciation is light energy. isn't it? And if I can do that, I can make that step into that light energy. It makes it easier to make that next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. Also, for me, from the heart math work that I learned, just centering my awareness in my heart space and breathing. Breathing into the heart. And I find actually a 6 count. When I breathe in, count to 6. And breathe out, count to 6. It helps me move back into my heart energy. And the heart energy is the energy of light. And then, this is one I learned not long ago. Do you know that you cannot be stressed if you relax your tongue? If you relax your tongue, you actually cannot be in a place of stress. They've done studies on this. If you actually just relax your tongue. Now, it's interesting because there's a lot of good benefits to relaxing your tongue when you're not in the darkness, if you know what I mean. When I say relaxing your tongue, that doesn't mean you let it fly. Usually when you relax your tongue, you let it lay, which means that you're not saying some of those things that you were thinking. Does that make sense? So just practice that. Think about that. Relaxing the tongue is amazing. It'll help you, your whole physiology begins to shift if you just simply breathe and relax your tongue. It's pretty amazing. I use the EFT, of course. How many of you had experienced the benefits of the tapping work? Yeah. How many of you be interested in learning more about that? Great. We're going to do more work with that. I'm going to set up some times for us to do more of that work. Exercise. Exercise is great for letting go of the dark energies. It really is great for helping you to shift your energy. And then I look for and give an act of service or kindness and compassion. I look for some way that I can do something for somebody else, because one of the first things that does is it takes us out of ourself. And the moment we take ourselves out of ourselves, we actually are doing something that is caring and compassionate, and we're moving into the light energy. So I wanted to actually ask some others. Lisa, you have one?
Have you heard of the strength pose?
Tell me.
Okay, it's like totally scientifically based. I mean,
Let's do it.
So much research. You just stand like this, and there are like 2 or 3 of them you can do, but you stand with your feet apart and your hands on your hips and your head up for 2 minutes.
Cool.
You can do it when you're having to go into a situation where you feel, lack of confidence, or where you feel like you've been unsuccessful and you can't, you're frightened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the
Strength pose, yeah.
and you just stand like this. Guys like you're Superman and girls like you're Wonder Woman.
It has a physiological and a psychological and an emotional effect.
Yeah.
And it moves you back into that energy of light. Would you share one also? Yes.
Well, I was just going to comment, it also makes you stop.
It also makes you stop. That's great.
Exactly, yeah.
It makes you aware. So what are some other, I'm going to take a few of these. What are some ways that you move from darkness to light? Teresa?
Putting a smile on your face.
Putting a smile. Absolutely. You know what? You cannot, if you smile for just a few minutes, you will find
It doesn't have
it's
to be
shift.
real either.
It doesn't even have to be real. You can, I love that fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
It really does work. So just stop and smile. And I love the smile in the heart. Have you done that? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So B, you had one?
Yeah, like you're meeting and things aren't going well or anything, then you rub your wrist.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, there's a pressure point in there. That's a great. That's
You can't leave and you have to stay in the meeting, and so you just start rubbing your
rub your wrist. I've seen people doing that. That's actually a good one. Yes. And I had one over here. Yeah, Carol?
Someone told me this years ago, go give someone what you need the most.
Go give someone what you need the most. Boy, that's great. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yes.
Remembering what worked before.
Remembering what worked before. Yeah. Yeah. We do forget these things sometimes, don't we? Yeah. Well, I noticed that I didn't actually put up here one of the most valuable and most important for me. And I think, I don't know if it was conscious or unconscious, but I didn't put up there meditation. And the reason why I didn't put up meditation was because usually when you're in the middle of it and you're in a particular experience or energy of darkness, it's really challenging to move into a state of meditation. So oftentimes, what will help you to do these kinds of things is if you will have a consistent and regular practice of meditation, and what you will find is that you will find yourself not moving into the dark energies or not getting hooked by them as easily if you're really doing this continual ongoing practice of realigning yourself with your energy and your source. Yes?
In line with that, David G.,
David G.
who wrote, he was the first dean of the Chopra Institute and worked for 10 years before that with Deepak Chopra. And he has a new book called De-Stressify.
De-stressify. Excellent.
And he talks about 16 seconds, and he uses it with police. He's doing this outside of groups like Unity for regular people.
Cool.
And it's a 16 seconds of just breathing.
16 seconds of breathing. I'd like to know more about that. That sounds like a great technique, actually. So I just wanted to kind of throw out some things that work for me and ask you to throw out some things that work for you. But really, what I'm going to invite you to do is to really contemplate and think about just this simple question. What is it that I can do that will move me back into an experience of light and truth and feel good now? So if you find yourself in a stressful situation, in a challenging experience, if you find yourself confronted with something in life that's not going the way you would like it to go, stop a moment and just simply ask yourself the question, am I moving into darkness or am I moving into light? And make a choice. You know, you get to make a choice. And I encourage you to do that in the voting booth. So have a great fun time with that this week. Let's move into our meditation time. So let's take a nice deep breath and let's breathe into that heart space. And as you breathe in and out, I invite you to breathe in to a count of 6 and breathe out to a count of 6. Just naturally. And as you're breathing in and out, let your awareness move into your heart space. Focus your awareness into the place of the heart. And as you're breathing in and out, allow your tongue to relax. And let it rest on the floor of your mouth. And see if you can notice or see something that you can appreciate. Something you can appreciate about maybe someone you've had a challenge with. Something you can appreciate about a particular circumstance or situation that you found yourself in. And if you can't appreciate it, can you at least accept? Can you allow yourself to feel and be aware of an energy of appreciation or acceptance about yourself in that circumstance and situation? Perhaps it's just an acknowledgement or a feeling of compassion, of doing the best you know how in that moment. Maybe it's an energy of forgiveness. Let your heart be filled with and dwell in the energies and the vibrations of light. And just simply be open to allowing those to flow and ask, what's the next best feeling that I could have? And from this place of light within the heart, know that right now you are sharing and you are creating more energy and vibrations and experiences of light out into the world. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. Let your light so shine." Take a moment now just to simply be open to feeling grateful for that light, for those energies, for that consciousness that uplifts, that heals, that transforms, that blesses, that prospers. Take a nice deep breath. Let your awareness come back into this room, time and place. Take another nice deep breath, and when you're ready, gently open your eyes. So it is.